All right, welcome back to another episode. In this episode, I'm going to go a little deeper and talk about the nature of business itself. So, why did we go from the barter system to actually doing business, and what exactly are companies? So, in this episode, we're going to explore all of that. Let's get started. The presentation is titled Sales is in Your DNA, the nature of business. So, business primarily started because of the human need to trade things. We learned this in the last episode. It started as barter between households. Markets were created where people used to meet to trade things. Since then, the main abilities of a business grew to own property, enter contracts, and take legal action which didn't affect the founders or owners themselves. You see, sometimes when you get larger as a team or as a family, and there's this one random person that you hired or that you work with that has done something stupid. Maybe that person has gone and swindled or cheated somebody else. You don't want that to affect the founders, right? You don't want the founders to go to jail for the action of somebody that they couldn't fully trust. Now, because of that, businesses were created as a way to separate the personal assets of somebody from their businesses. In the 8th century BC in India, there were early organizations called Shreni, which were the first firms that could independently enter into contracts or own property, which also meant they could sue and be sued. The machine age allowed families to make things primarily with the goal of trading them. So, there are simple, basic rules of businesses, and we're going to just look at the core one, right? What's at the core of a business? You have some input, which is you buy or manufacture something, and then you have an output, which is you sell it at a higher price. The difference is the profit. Now, this should seem fairly obvious. We're not going to dwell into it. In its expanded form, the input could be machines, it could be labor, it could be some partnerships and contracts, it could be property, it could be brand value, a bunch of different things that a business has. And the output is that you sell it at a higher price. The difference is still the profit. And you might think that, oh, this doesn't apply to all businesses, but the truth is that it does. Whether you're an old family real estate business or you're Apple, it's the same principles that apply. So the main goals of most businesses are to increase sales, reduce costs, and increase profits. All other indicators of a business are tied into this, right? At the end of the day, this is the goal of business. You increase the sales, you reduce costs, and you increase profits, right? And obviously, if you increase sales and reduce costs, you increase profits. So you could say that the bare or the core minimum ideas are to increase sales and to reduce costs. Fundamentally, you are a business too, right? If you really look at it, and we spoke about us being products, you have some skills, you have a network, you have some brand value, which is your past accomplishments, your credibility, you have some property, you have other assets, and that becomes you. And your goal again is to increase sales, reduce costs, increase profits, right? And that is essentially, you could reduce costs by reducing your rent, or you could increase sales by getting a bigger gig. And the idea is still to increase the amount of surplus capital you have with you. Let's think about how businesses get bigger, right? So you have a product, you have some leverage, and the leverage could be your brand, it could be the connections you have, it could be anything, right? And then you distribute the product via your distribution, which is you might sell it online, you might sell it through, some offline partners, you might be in stores. It doesn't matter how you distribute it. It just matters that you are able to distribute it, right? So if you lower the costs of building the product, say at its very core, let's say you're building a t-shirt brand. So you could lower the cost of the material, you could lower the cost of the equipment, you could lower the cost of the people that are there. So whatever it costs to get the product out, and if you can increase the leverage that you have, and then you use your brand and your distribution to increase the awareness and the spread of your product, that is how businesses get bigger. Isn't it how humans get more successful too? There's a product, which is you. You have some leverage and you have some skills, which is your leverage could be who you know. It could be anything, right? And then you have some skills, right? It could be, your ability to do design. It could be your ability to do marketing, whatever it is, right? And at the end of the day, you package all of this and then you brand it and you distribute it. So in most cases, people don't understand that you're already doing this. When you go to a job site to apply to a job, or when you sit for placements, you are using one distribution channel. Placements is a distribution channel for you, and your CV is basically all that's left of your brand, right? So in most cases, people don't understand that applying to a job is a marketing and sales technique, right? And the more places you apply, obviously you're distributing your brand and you're You're making sure that you have more places to look at, or more people are looking at you from different places. So you are in sales too. A mother needs to sell to her toddler to make him eat porridge. You need to convince your parents to buy you a new phone. A job seeker needs to convince a company that they need his or her services. So at the end of the day, regardless of how you're doing business, the core idea of a business is to increase sales and to understand that almost everything you do on a daily basis is the function of sales. Right? Even if you want to convince your parents to, put you in this college or buy the Meta course or Meta Pass, or it's still a sales function. Right? So you need to be better at sales if you want your business to do better. A company is just a formal legal entity to sell. Right? So to sell is in the human DNA. Right? We are built to sell. We are built to trade. We are built to ask for things. At the end of the day, like I said, even a mother who makes the child eat something, it's the mother still selling the child something. A company is a formal way to do this. It allows you to sell as a team rather than individually. Network, property, brand are more easily shared. So it's like, for example, into Avalon, I bring a certain level of connections. Shashank brings another set of connections. Nikita brings another set of connections. Abhinav brings another set of connections. It's better shared than if it's just one person's alone. Because if I ask, say, Abhinav for some of his connections or the people he knows, he wouldn't go ahead and do that if he doesn't have enough to gain. So it's just a bunch of people that get together who have a lot to gain, who are able to leverage all of the things that they have put together. So it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = much more, because you can do a lot more. So taxation is much easier if you have a company. I always give this advice to freelancers who are sitting and working together. You'll see them making maybe a lakh and then spending 30,000 on food or Red Bull or whatever. And I say, well, why doesn't the company pay for that? Why don't you guys create a small company and then pay for that? Because if you're making a lakh, you're first paying money to the government, right? Assuming you're making a lakh per month, you're paying 30% to the government first. And then on top of that, you have to pay for all the things that you need, your rent, etc., etc. Whereas when you form a company, the company can first pay the rent, and then only after all its deductions does it need to pay tax to the government. So at the end of the day, the people who work at that company are saved from the unnecessary taxation that the government would charge them. You cannot not be in business. All of you, whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur or somebody who's just sitting at home doing nothing, you are still in business. Everybody is in sales. You need to be doing the same things as a traditional business if you want to grow. So whether you're a tech business, you're an individual, you're a freelancer, you're somebody who wants to convince his mother to buy you a new iPhone, you are all in sales and you need to do the same things that a traditional business would do. Right? Alright guys, so that's it for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to look at this formal legal entity called a company and break it down to its individual components, just like I told you we would. Bye-bye.